Welcome, pudding people, to another episode of Everybody Loves Pudding. I'm your host, Ken Seymour, and I have to say I am extraordinarily excited today to bring to you two of my absolute favorite actors that has ever graced the screen or the stage, the incredible Stuart Pankin and the immaculate Peter Jason.
He has been immaculate in 60 years.
I don't know. I anytime you get the number of appearances that the both of you have had in television and theater, I have to think that there is a certain level of divinity that goes along with it.
Let me tell you something. If you had an iPhone and you clicked on Peter Jason's IMDb page, you would run out of battery power before you got to the end of his credits.
Where he's at right now, the end.
I have to say, I'm also, I don't usually do interviews with two people at the same time because it can sometimes get a little chaotic. Would it be okay if I brought in just like a second microphone so I can feel like I'm on even ground with the both of you?
Great. Stewie, you talking to that one?
Okay, but it looks really awkward.
I'm going to be working on this one.
So start with the basics. How is life treating the both of you right now?
Petey?
Stewie?
Some life is treating me like it's treating most people. Excuse me. We're dealing with this pandemic, which ebbs and flows and wanes and waxes. Every other day. I just got my second booster, God knows, to try to keep me alive. And I'm spending a lot of time inside. I'm swimming, trying to stay in shape and getting to look as good as Peter Jason. And I'm with my wife, with my family. Everything is great. Couldn't be better.
I like it. How about you, sir?
Just the opposite. Actually, you're forced to deal with this isolation, which is for actors who love to play. I've been forced to go out to my backyard and play with sticks. I find wood, I make stuff out of them. I make boxes, I make trunks, I make tables, I make animals, I make sticks, and then I paint them. I don't use any nails. It's all for free.
They're really gorgeous. He uses a lot of nails. He's lying, but they're
zero nails. And look. And, it's kept me busy. It's kept me happy. And I'm going to have an art show here soon.
That sounds like a lot of fun.
Other than that, it's dangerous out there. Everybody went to the Washington, and Pelosi came back with COVID. The mayor of New York came back with COVID. I was scared to death. I went to the circus the other day, Circus du Soleil there, which was fantastic. But it was down at the Microsoft Theater down in Live LA, and there were people everywhere. I mean, they check your stuff, you check your stuff, you quote your stuff, you check everything, but still, I wore everything down there, and I think I'm fine. But you never know. So it's scary. It's scary. What are you going to do? Old people, we're at a risk more than most people, I guess. So, but I feel
when I get to Peter's age, I'm going to feel exactly the way he does.
Are you saying?
So now, this is not the first film, Deep in the Forest. This is not the first film that the two of you have worked together on.
It isn't?
No. You were both in Arachnophobia.
I remember that. I remember Peter Jason. That's where we fell in love.
So that was the only one that I could find. Have you both kind of been in each other's orbits for a significant amount of time?
We fell in love on that picture.
Peter and I, we met in that picture, and I realized that, how great Peter was. And he was actually, we worked with Jeremy Lanny, who was the director of Deep in the Forest. At least, Peter's done more than I have, but we've done at least 3 other movies with Jeremy Lanny, maybe 2. Peter's done a bunch. I've done 2 with Peter. And those are smaller movies. Arachnophobia was obviously, a bigger movie. But Peter's been in my life, and he's been in my son's life. He was my son's special friend once when his grandmother couldn't make it. And, that's the way we've been for the last 30 years.
We built a playhouse in his backyard. for his
My son needed a play. My son, I wanted to buy my son a playhouse. And Peter, who was over dinner, says, "What are you talking about? Buying?"
Big bonding moment, because
we built a playhouse. I mean, Peter is a great carpenter. And he went out and he got all the wood and
Stewie had never had a hammer in his hand.
Well, I don't want to go there, but no, I haven't.
But
I rarely had a hammer in my hand.
He had all the brand new equipment, the vest and the belt and the hammer and the chisel and the nails he had it all brand spanking new. Looked fantastic. I think I came in my shorts and a t-shirt or something, and was using a coffee cup to pound stuff in.
Peter said when I first got here, he says, "Let's get dressed." And I said, "Let's get dressed." He said, "Put on your belt, your tool belt." That's what I mean by "let's get dressed." He's been doing it for years. He's great. He's great.
We built a gorgeous house. A gorgeous house in the backyard.
Beautiful playhouse in the backyard. Yeah, it was great.
I think I tried that at one point. Somebody pointed out a small flaw in my design when there was no door.
Well, there was no door in ours either. Peter dug a tunnel from our kitchen to underneath the house, and that's how we got in.
Oh, so
until we broke into the pool. And then everything was awash.
So throughout your histories, you've both been involved with some just fantastic projects. And I know you get talked to a lot about the big names that come up at any given time. I'm sure, Mr. Pankin, that Dinosaurs
Stuart
comes up.
Big name. Andrea Marcovici. Big long name.
So what I wanted to know is, a lot of times when you're on so many projects, I mean, there's going to be just a couple of instances that maybe the consuming public is not aware of, that are just hold a special place in your minds. Do you have anything like that? That's like, I was on this one show and I just cannot think how much I loved the set design on it, or loved working with a particular director, or just the ambiance of the cast working together?
Wow. Well, I have no bad feelings about any project I've done. I mean, people have asked this question before, and there's no project, no actor that I work with, no cast, no director that I wouldn't love to work with again. I mean, means nothing, but one of my favorite experiences was a low budget movie directed by Lloyd Schwartz, who was Sherwood Schwartz, that Brady Brunch guy in Gilligan's Island. We did it in the back of a warehouse, and for about 2 weeks, it was the most fun I've ever had. Nobody's ever heard of the movie. Nobody will ever hear them. To answer a long answer to your short question, there's nobody. I loved Arachnophobia. Dinosaurs and Fatal Attraction. All these stuff that I've done that people may or may not have heard of have all been, instrumental in moving me along in my life or my career. So that's it.
What about you, Mr. Jason?
I'm always amazed that they ask me to come and play again. Because that's what I like to do. I love to show up and play. Once in a while, there's a bully on the playground, and it takes the fun away from everybody. I don't like to name names because, well, some of them are dead and they can't fight for themselves anymore. But what was that ping? Am I on?
I need to take my medication. I'll be right back.
Great. It's just so much fun to do what we do when the world is like in misery and we get to play for a living. People ask me, "Why are you so happy all the time?" Because I've never worked. I've never had to go to work. Once in a while, you run up against some selfish, egotistical jerks that make it unfun, but still, you work around them. You try to just pretend they're not there and just continue to have as much fun as you can, because that's what we're here for. We're here. Nobody likes to watch anybody work. The audience likes to see people play. and hearkening all the way back to some of the most successful shows ever, like the Mary Tyler Moore Show. The first time I was working on Gunsmoke at the same time they were doing that, and I'd go back to this dressing room door every day, and I hear the laughter pouring out of this dressing room door. One day I stuck my head in, and Ed Asner said, "Get your ass in here, kid." And I went and I looked in, and it was Gavin and Ted and Ed, and the three of them just made each other laugh all the time and had such a great camaraderie. The show was hugely successful and ran on forever, and all of them got different series out of it. You know, it's not difficult to play. It's really fun. It's the ones that slow down the playing process that always bother me.
Yeah, Peter's right. I mean, I said to a director once, "I got to go to work." He said, "You don't work. You know, digging ditches is work. Laying tar on roads is work. You know," and he's right. And you know, we are lucky as actors to do something that we've probably loved doing, you know, all our sentient lives. And
it's not to say that it's not hard. You know, I've seen people who aren't actors step in front of the camera and are destroyed, you know, just cannot handle that moment when they say, "All right, 30 speed, apple 38, apple baker, take 2 and action." And you're supposed to pretend like you're alone in your room, and it's like, you know, it's not everybody's capable of having everything going on around you at the same time and going, "Well, I'm all alone here and I don't know what to do," you know.
They're right down the barrel of the camera.
Yeah. They're creeping up your nose, and we love that. That's what that's what we're trained to do. Number one, and number two, that's what we love doing.
So, okay, maybe a better question, rather than just a memory from a specific production. Is there a part of the process that you enjoy more than others, whether it's the table read or the introduction to the rest of the cast, getting to know each other? What part is maybe your favorite part of the creation of the piece of artwork?
And that's lunch.
You know, when I was younger, acting on stage and from college, I hated the rehearsals. I said, let's get that audience in there. Let's get that response. Let's get those kudos. The older I got, the more I enjoyed the process, the rehearsal process. And I'm talking about not only on the set, but at home. I enjoy working on the script at home and coming up with stuff. I used to, you know, and I don't think people objected. I used to rewrite, even when I first got here, all kinds of stuff, because I was just studying the script and I was trying to make it better, and I thought I could make it better. And a director once said about one of the first shows I did, the San Pedro Beach Bum, he said to the director, "These guys are changing," and everybody was doing it now. "These guys are changing the words. You know, how am I supposed to shoot it?" And the producer said, "You know, for the 1% they screw up, the 99% of the times it makes it better. So you just go with that." And that gave me some validation as an actor and as a performer. So those moments of at home, at the work at home, and on the set in rehearsals, I've come to really enjoy that. I just hate when those cameras roll because I'm such a private person and I don't like to be on film. But I love no, that's a lie. That's a total fabrication.
You had me there for a minute, though.
Yeah. Well, I studied acting, but that's, you know, I've changed. And when I used to work, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the interaction with the cast on stage. You come up with stuff. I mean, if you're open to it, that's the creative process. You just come up with some stuff, and hopefully it works.
Now, one of the hardest things I believe for an actor to do is to get the job. And so I never liked the audition process. I never liked anything about it. I was always uncomfortable. I was nervous. I never felt I always wanted to do it a second time and they wouldn't let me. And it was just not my favorite. I had to embrace that. And that became my favorite part. Now over, 55 years of acting, I've been to over 15,000 auditions, and that's my comfort zone. That's my area of comfort. I play in the lobby. I play with the kids. I play with, and then when they call my name to go into the room to meet the people, I play with them. And they either like to play or they don't like to play, and they find out instantly whether they want me in their company. And
that's why Peter never works.
that's why I haven't worked since Easter.
Somebody once said, the orgasm happens when you get the job, and the rest of it is downhill. But that's great. But we've talked about this before. To make friends with the audition process is a really big deal for an actor who wants, you can't, any number of acting professionals have said they're not the enemy in those rooms. They want you to solve their problem. That's why you come into audition. They want you to solve their problem. A lot of people think they're the enemy. They're not. And Peter's, has expressed it very well. You gotta make peace with that process, and you gotta walk into that room, not with the ego that blows your head off, but with the confidence that you can do the job and that they want you.
We're providing a service.
That's right.
How can I help you? I showed up on time, I shaved. How can I help you? And get us that guy rather than the one who showed up late, smelling the last night, and wants to change everything.
I've had a friend who was a fairly successful actor. He waited a long time and then he walked out. And I said to myself, maybe him, what good does that do? That doesn't do any good for anybody. You got to make peace with the process. And as Peter said, it's a crappy process. There are, quite frankly, too many very good actors in town and over the world. There's just too many good actors. And getting a job doesn't mean you're the best. Not getting a job doesn't mean you're the worst. It's just that there are so many factors that go into getting cast. So what Peter said is correct. You gotta, since you can't, those are X factors. Those are factors that you can't control. When you go into that room, you better look at those people behind the desk and think of them as naked and wanting to play.
Oftentimes when you finish the audition, you go out going, I killed. I absolutely killed. It's the best I've ever been. There's no way in hell I'm not going to get this job. And the phone never rings. Yet you go in there and you flop and flip and floop and flup. And you go out and you go, oh, geez, I blew that one. And they call you and you got that job. So there's like no rhyme or reason most of the time about how you get it.
There's a French expression called esprit d'escalier, which means the spirit of the staircase. So that when you go out, and you're walking down the stairways to go home, you go, geez, I should have done it that way. Or, gee, and then you realize, oh, now I know how to do it. Which is interesting because this woman came to talk to us at Columbia, an old Tony Award-winning actress. I think it was Zoe Caldwell. You're too young to remember. Peter knows it all. But she had won a Tony for this play, and she walked out after the last performance of the last scene of the play, and she said to the stage manager, I just figured out how to play that scene. And you say to yourself, that gives us a tremendous forgivability. Give yourself a break. But that's the acting process. And Petey's right. You got to make friends.
Now, there's a certain amount of you're alluding to that immediate feedback of the audience when you're in an actual stage play. Now, you've both been involved in quite a number of productions, and I was digging around, and I had a couple of questions. I saw that Peter was in The Music Man at one point. Did you get to be the part of Harold Hill, or were you a different?
Listen, either you're closing your eyes to a situation you do not wish to acknowledge, or you're not aware of the caliber of disaster indicated. Yes, I was.
I saw that's like, yeah, that's 100%. I can see that. I wish I would have seen that.
Well, I'll tell you the truth. I copied Robert Preston. Exactly. I saw many productions of it, and he was by far the most fun that of anybody. He was a great con man. He was a great lover. He was a great human being. He was just fantastic. I fortunately got to meet him a couple of times and spend some time with him, and I fell in love with him even more. He was the Music Man, and if you're going to do it, you got to do it like him. Otherwise, you're not going to look right.
The one that stood out for Stuart is, and it threw me off at first, and I didn't look at the year, and that's my own fault. It's like, oh, he was in a production of War of the Roses. It's like, I didn't know they did that on the film from Michael Douglas. That doesn't sound right. Oh no, sorry, Shakespeare.
that was Shakespeare. Yeah, that was a long time ago. It was in the park, and they did Wars of the Roses. Wars of the Roses. Henry VI played the 3 parts. They edited it down to 2, and then they did Richard III with the great Donald Madden. It was very exciting for me. Basically, I was beer carry and understudied a bunch of parts. But and we did it once, all at once. You know, the entire night. We did all 3-hour productions. At the end, the cast of Hair came in and sang "Let the Sun Shine In." So it was a very, you know, and to sit, even, you know, carrying a spear, literally carrying a spear, sitting back and watching some of these great Shakespearean actors in New York was a tremendous learning experience. It was revelatory to watch these people work. I was talking about terrified when I had to go on stage in the rehearsal hall to say my line, "Dear Lord, the Carthaginians are at the gate." I was terrified.
The Carthaginians?
Well, whatever. But I didn't want to cross, you know, the off stage onto the on stage to say that line. I was just shaking, and then you get used to it. But yeah, again, a long answer. Wars of the Roses was a you know, Joe Papp production in the park. Long time.
Those both just sound like really. I always imagine, you know, you get into that conversation with friends like, oh, what are the concerts that you never went to that you wish you could have seen, or the things like that. I tend to think in terms of theater productions. What are the theater productions that I wish I could have seen if I ever had a chance? Both of those, like, man, that seems like it would just been so much fun to see either of those. Now, you mentioned just there that you were in the presence of some people that were very impressive in their craft, and everybody gets inspired by somebody at the beginning. And I'm sure you've been asked the question multiple times, who inspired you to get into the business? I want to ask a slightly different question. Now that you've been doing productions for a number of years, who inspires you today?
Wow. I'll start. I mean, I can't think of anybody specific. There are a lot of actors I admire, tons of them, but that doesn't necessarily, I mean, it's almost frustrating sometimes to look at these brilliant people and just say to yourself in the back of your head, I can't do that. I mean, I don't know if I could do that. But the modern actors today, the Anthony Hopkins, the Benedict Cumberbatches, I mean, the Tilda Swintons, all these people are inspirational. Whether I think of them when I step onto a set, no, not really. My inspiration, the thing that got me involved in theater, was my college director and teacher, Dave Brubaker. He was a giant in my mind, and he sort of inspired me to continue in theater. But you know, probably Peter's the same way. You always wanted to do it. You know, even when you're a kid, you know, singing and dancing in front of your family at Friday night dinners, you knew that you wanted to do it. I signed up in college to be a psychology major, but when I walked across that dark campus for that first audition for a college play, I knew it. I was hooked. I was done, and I knew in my head that I wanted to do it all my life. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
I like it.
I have a lot of heroes, both alive and dead. But the young kids today, they're just so exciting to watch. They just are so talented and so free. I wish they could speak better. In America, we don't have the technique that they have in Britain. We just don't. We don't teach it enough. I went to a school that they did teach it, and everybody that came out of that school can speak distinctly, because that was the name of the speech book, Speak with Distinction. And
well, I'm sorry, I didn't understand you.
But nobody was funny. But I liked, we had, when I was at Carnegie, they had I had 3 buddies, and we were the big 4 from America, because an article in the New York paper came out, nobody can rival the big 4 from Britain. And it was Alan Bates, Albert Finney, Peter O'Toole, and Terence Stamp. And so they became, you know, my heroes for a while. And I got to work with a couple of them. And Gena Rowlands and Meryl Streep are 2 people that I had the privilege of working with them. And both of them, when I worked with both of them, all the lanterns were on in the eyes, all the fires were aglow. It was like full tilt boogie, you know. It's like, oh my God, they're hypnotic. It was like they just sucked you in, and they raised me to a level that I had never been to before, and it was just so much fun. Let's do another take, another take, another take, and they were game. They were just game to do another one, and any way you wanted it, and that made that day fly by so quickly. People who are really excited about what they're doing are the people I like to be around, and unfortunately, older people kind of are tired and sore and angry and old, and they don't like to do all the stuff that they used to do that used to excite them.
Why are
I'm
you
not
looking
saying
at
all
me?
of them. I'm just saying Stewie. People like no, Stewie's one of the few people I always latch onto whenever in, I don't care where we are at a dinner, you know, I'll go straight to Stewie because I know I'll have a good time always. One time we were at an award ceremony for one of Jeremy Lanny's movies, and I forget what the two signs were. One was meat,
Beef and chicken.
Chicken and meat. And they gave us little things. What do you want, chicken or meat? You know, Stewie put chicken on his, I put meat on mine, and it sat there for the whole dinner. So then the guy came by. Oh, you're meat. You're the chicken. Okay, fine. People looked at us like, get those stupid idiots out of here. This is a classy operation.
Not when we're there.
Not when you tasted the chicken.
Okay, I have to ask this.
Don't ask it. Don't even think about it.
Speaking of an awards ceremony, so in 2006, Stuart was nominated for Best Celebrity Presenter at the Electronics Retail Association.
Should have got it. Did you get it?
No, Susan Summers got it, I think.
Damn.
Well, I should have slept with her. I didn't.
Is it just me? It seems almost like you did sketch comedy. It seems like a sketch comedy that it's an award ceremony with an award for presenting awards.
Well, it was an infomercial, you know, evening, and all these presenters were there. Like all awards, it's just they to aggrandize themselves. My wife said, "Take that off your resume." I said, "Okay." He said, "You don't have to have that." I said, "Okay, it's gone."
I don't know. I think that's just kind of fantastic. I may have laughed for a good 10 minutes straight when I just started thinking about an entire television show.
That's a good laugh. Just on that. Back on your resume.
And I'll tell you something else. It means nothing, but that weekend, I hired a cab to take me around Vegas. I hadn't been there a long time. There was a police chase. This guy that he was running from the police slammed into our taxi cab.
Ooh.
Yeah, slammed into our taxi. I banged my head. And you talk about not wishing that you hadn't gone there. You know, it was the most painful award experience I've ever had.
Literally.
Oh, man. I promise, though, it won't be nearly as painful as these brief messages about our social media. Don't forget, Pudding People, to catch us on all of our social media to keep up to date with what's going on in the world of pudding. Where are you most active, Richard?
Well, you could see some of my activity on our Instagram account.
Would that happen to be at Pudding Guys?
That one would, yes.
Amazing. You know what? That is also our Facebook. So you can about once a month see it. If you're lucky. If you're lucky, we'll post something on Facebook. We're probably most on Twitter at Real Pudding Guys. But of course, you can catch us on Patreon as
Pudding Guys.
That's right. Where for just $1 a day, you can support us as we bring you new interviews, new material, new stuff to make our interviews and material look better. It's just fantastic for only $1 a month. A paltry sum.
Not a lot.
No, not really.
It really isn't. That's actually $12 over the course of a year.
Right. Small change to help the Pudding Guys keep going. And we love our supporters. We look forward to seeing you on social media. Now, as always, a very interesting break. I know both Stuart and Peter really enjoyed it. They definitely think that you should follow us on all of our social media.
Oh yeah, I donated $50,000 to this project.
I'm talking tick, 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 and face plant, all of them. Do them
That's
all.
right. That's right. I can tell you, I thought I saw the dance, the TikTok dances from both of you not too long ago. All that could have been a dream, possibly.
Tick, 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 boom. That's me.
So, all right. So you've been on both sides of the characters. You've been heroes, you've been villains, you've been anywhere in between. Just from your heart of hearts, when you're approaching a role, do you prefer playing the hero or the villain or some shade of gray in between?
I'm so tired of playing lovers. It's unbelievable.
You get so chafed. For me, it's not necessarily heroes and villains. As a character guy, a heavy character guy, I don't get to play heroes a lot. Villains occasionally, but more it's like, do you prefer a comedy or drama? Now, having done comedy for so many years on stage and in movies, I always enjoy a little change of pace. Like Deep in the Forest, I get to play a little bit of a dramatic role, which is always fun to explore that. And the more you do something that you're not used to, the more you learn from it and the better you get. So personally, I would love to do more. I'd love to play a psychopathic killer who eats babies. That's my dream job, because nobody will cast me in that, but that's what I want to do. I want to play some horrible man.
Silence of the Lambs 15.
Yeah.
But Stewie is right. The furthest you stretch yourself, something that you would not normally be cast as, is always the most fun, and usually one of your best performances, because it takes you out of any comfort zone you're in and puts you in an area that every moment is new. So you have to be awake and alive and embrace it fully, so you can create that reality in an imaginary circumstance. That's the fun part of acting.
Also the fun part of acting, and you don't get that so much in movies unless you have a very strange and open director. Like on stage, if you do something, like Petey said, if you discover something on stage that night that you haven't done before, it's a tingle, it's an electricity that goes through your body, and you say to yourself, I'm going to do that tomorrow, and that's a learning process, and that's a great growth for especially stage actors. Movies, you don't do that so much. There are moments, I guess, in movies where there's a scene where you can throw some stuff in and improvise, but I don't know if Petey agrees, but to me,
I do. It's a different discovery.
Yeah, but the stage is it's always been my first love, and I used to go back to it, before the pandemic as often as I could, but because you discover and you get to play. I was lucky enough to be in a theater that you get to play all kinds of different roles I would never get cast out in the world.
Because of that, if people that started like Stuart and myself that started off on the stage, there's a respect for the process and the creating of the family that is a latecomer in the film business. It's you can finish high school, come out and star in a show, and never been on the stage, and I think you're missing the fun.
100%. Agree 100%.
The family is that's why I have but I have a few directors who hire me again and again and again, because they like me to be a part of their family, and they create a family, and I love that. It's a safe place. The family is a safe place to be in show business.
It's a lot better. I mean, Petey has these directors, and he knows as well as I do. You do a guest spot on a television show, you're a stranger. I mean, you're a stranger in a strange land. You got to pull it in and do your job. And while they're all, talking about what happened last week and the ratings, and then, you gotta
hope they invite you back.
Huh? And you hope that they ask you back. But you just got to pull it together and do your job, and don't worry about that. And directors usually like to pick on guest people. That's a whole other story. But you got to pull it together and do your job and not worry about the social stuff that's going on around you. That's why I like the stage better.
Well, dealing with the same people also, it's just not just I would think of not just be that family, but that level of trust that you develop over time. They know what you're capable of, their process, and it allows you to focus on other things that you may not necessarily be able to focus on if you're coming into a completely stark and new set of people that you've never worked with before.
Yeah, you can't improvise a lot as a guest star in some of these television shows. They frown on that. But in the theater, not only do you have a family that you trust, you also know who not to trust. So, if you're there in a company for months, you kind of get the lay of the land, and you know who to go to and who to go away from.
I'll bet that happens pretty quick. So, okay, I'm sure you get this one a lot too, but this is just a way for me to actually mention how your work has affected me personally. But I know people ask you, what do you get recognized for the most? And I know that's going to change over time as other things become popular. I know probably Peter gets recognized for, I would say, Deadwood at this point, maybe more than anything else.
Depends. The Bartender in 48 Hours is probably what everybody, especially the African-American community, will always spot me. Hey, you're the guy. You're the guy. Hey, aren't you the guy?
Yeah. Peter Jason went in for an audition once, and he did the audition, and they said, "Thank you very much, but we're looking for the guy who was the bartender in 48 Hours." And Peter says, "I was the bartender in 48 Hours." He didn't get the job.
What about you?
They asked my agent for Stuart Pankin type, and he said, "Stuart Pankin's available." I didn't get it. No, I think I got the job. That's what happens.
So do you get recognized for your voice work more, or do you get recognized for your live work more? Yes.
Me?
Yes.
Well, in the old days, especially in the East, not necessarily in California, because everybody's sort of jaded. I used to get noticed for all the Disney stuff I used to do. The kids used to recognize me, but dinosaurs, during the pandemic, and I'm not saying it's me, it's the show, I used to get 2 to 4 autograph requests a day to sign their little pod, what do you call it? I don't know, those little plastic.
The pop.
The pop things.
Yeah.
So Dinosaurs, since it was re-released on Disney Plus, has now been things that people talk to me about. I don't go out a lot, so it's usually based on what they see online or something. But in the East, I used to get recognized, Fatal Attraction and mostly the Disney stuff.
That makes sense. So both I have, and it's just because of the way that I was, I don't want to say raised, watched television. I was a strange child. So the stuff that I
and a strange adult.
Well, yeah, we don't talk about that part though. So what I recognize for you, Stuart, you left an indelible mark. As silly as it may sound, you were on a couple of episodes of Night Court.
Yeah.
And when I was watching that was the connector, seeing you on that and then seeing you in anything else. It's like, oh, I know this guy.
He's the guy on Night Court. Yeah.
Yeah, he's the guy on Night Court, and he's always been great. And for Mr. Jason, it's Brewster's Millions. Your part in Brewster's Millions just sticks with me all the time.
Climbing Action News, the big story.
That's a good movie, Brewster's Millions. I like that a lot.
It's been made, I think, 4 or 5 times, and it's always made money.
It was actually based on a novel from 1902 and has been made in the United States as a play in 1906, as a film in 61, 45, 35, 26, 21, and 14, and produced 6 times overseas.
Oh, sure. You do research on him.
I do research on both. I swear. But yeah, it's
it always made money.
Yeah, it's a good story. So okay, so now talking about the current day, the thing that we're here to talk about. You mentioned you've worked with Lanny a number of times. Now, when I was doing my research on this nice gentleman, a lot of his stuff shows up as short films. Is this his first feature length film that you worked together on, or is IMDb falling behind and missing some stuff?
I think this is his first full length, right?
I believe it's his first full feature. He's had several that he tried to get off the ground. That one was called One was a story of a bookstore in England. Tried to do it here, and then he tried to do it in England, and almost got it together, and then couldn't take enough Americans over to shoot in England, so that fell apart. But this is his first full-length feature, I believe.
So I assume he must have been sweating bullets the entire time. How did you give him a hard time through the production process?
He's smaller than us, so physically we just pummeled him every chance we got, and then he did what we said. Like,
well, not entirely, but close enough.
That cheeseburger, Stewie would say stuff like, "Are you going to eat that?" And we just took food from him mostly. He thought he was directing, but actually he was just like our cook.
So okay, so the real question: what about
not a real question?
Well, let me rephrase. A more serious question.
Oh, here we go. Stewie, you take it.
Not unless it's about cheeseburgers.
I guess it could be. If they were in, what about the script?
Let me take this. It started off. I got a call from Jeremy. I don't know how I met. I don't even remember how I met him, but I think Paula Malcolmson from Deadwood called me and said, "Talk to this guy. He's making some short, and he wants you in it." So the guy called me, and we had lunch. It seemed nice enough, and he wanted to get together this Western he was making called Women of the West. And I said, "Oh, okay, fine. I'll play the bad guy." And yeah, sure, fine, yeah. And I said, "Who else is in it?" She said, "Well, I'm going to get a bunch of players from Glendale College." And I said, "Well, good luck to you. I'm not going to do it." He said, "What?" I said, No. You got to know one thing. If you're going to ask professional actors to be in a show with you, you have to be surrounded by professional actors. If you can't afford it, then you can't afford it. And you don't pay a minimum. That's the lowest possible score you can give anybody to do this show. It has to be more than scale. I don't care if it's $50 more than scale. You have to pay more than the least you can do. It makes a person feel better. Well, at least he's not paying me scale, So he said, "Can you recommend anybody?" I said, "Are you going to pay scale?" He said, "Oh, no, I'll pay a little more." I said, "Okay, fine." He took some time off. He went and got some more money. And he called me back up. He says, "Okay, I got enough to pay everybody more than scale." I said, "Okay, what are the characters?" And he named this one, this one, this one, this one. And I said, "Yeah, Stewie and Stephen and Paula and Bridgie and I gave him a full bunch of actors. He gave me a casting credit, I think. And at the end of the day, each person that worked at that day, he handed him a check at the end of the day. Nobody's ever done that. Nobody does that. And we went, wow. And plus, the guy was so organized. He had 15-minute increments. 7:45, we do a close-up on the hand. 8:15, we do the back of his head. 9:25, we do the knife stabbing. 10:50, everything, all day long. Lunch, boom, bing, bum, boom. And he stuck to it. If he didn't finish it in that period of time, he did it at the end of the day, but he did everything as ordered. And he got the people in, he got them out. And I went, this guy is too organized to be, can't be any good. He's too organized. And I saw it and I went, geez, that's kind of fun. That guy was really good. Then he asked me to do another one. Yeah, I got some more people for him. Then he got another one, and then another one, and then another one. And then he didn't put me in one. Remember that one about the corned beef sandwich? I mean, the Reuben?
Yeah, I didn't put me in that one either. And I wrote some of that stuff for him.
Yeah, so I never worked with him again. You?
Yes, you did.
Oh, I did. But yeah, he turned out to be what you call a trustworthy producer director, a guy you could put your yourself,
your money in the bank,
in his hand and in his hands. You trusted him, and so it became very enjoyable to work for him. I remember he had a tough go at one of them that Stewie and I were both in because a kid was involved.
Oh.
And the kid was not an actor. He was a little kid. So he changed every 3 seconds. And he had to be mean and nasty in it and hit a guy with a bat. And
I spoiled it.
Sorry, but to try to get him to do that and not go, you know, on every take. He had to be, you know, he had to be mean and nasty, and he just couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. He just couldn't do it. And we were there late into the night. And one of my favorite pictures of Stewie and me is both of us sleep on each other's shoulder like this, you know, in our in little chairs off stage.
Peter actually slapped that kid when he was got out of control, which is, I think, where Will Smith got the idea. I don't know. It's just a conjecture.
Yeah, but then they kicked me out of the kid baseball team when I was playing.
Yeah, it sounds like bad news. So the subject matter is it's always interesting whenever you can take current stressors that are kind of affecting society as a whole and then bring them into a plot that can let you look at them from a different perspective. How did you approach, or how does this particular movie approach this kind of division that we have? Is it treated, how is it treated? How did you feel that this movie was able to give us some insight into what's going on?
You're talking about a movie called Deep in the Forest.
I am indeed.
Well, I think Deep in the Forest, as far as present social things, is an exaggeration of what's going on, or could be going on now, of course, in Russia, but what could be going on in the country. It's a kind of a political thriller about, I don't want to give, see, it's so hard to talk about a movie that hasn't come out yet because you don't want to give anything away, but it's about the conflict between government and the free society. It's also about, which is interesting, the dynamics of a group of people who must be together and dealing with leadership and problems among all of them, which is a really interesting dynamic. You can throw in a bad guy and a knife and a gun, and the political atmosphere of revolution and freedom. You get yourself kind of a nice little pot pie of a movie, and it's very enjoyable, very watchable.
Now, you when you approach this film, I'm trying to think of the best way to kind of phrase this. How do you deliver a performance that has to do with this kind of a topic that touches on politics? Politics and religion and everything is always a real sensitive way. How do you approach it so that the viewer can feel empathy for the characters that you play, even if they may potentially be of a completely different mindset?
Well, the way I approach every script, you do it with the words in the script. If the words in the script don't lead you to where you want to go, then you either drop out or you try to rewrite it. As far as my character, because the movie is about my character, it's about an old Jewish professor.
Excuse me?
No, just a minute, Peter.
I can hear you.
No, just a minute. It's about an old Jewish professor.
I can hear you.
All right. One of the characters is an old professor.
Start over.
And
on that question again.
See, I'm not worried about when you read a script offending somebody, pleasing somebody. You look at the script, you look at the words, you look at the character, like you've been trained to do for, in my case, 50, 55 years, and you play it as honestly and truthfully as you can. You don't worry about the consequences. I mean, that's when political stuff and religious stuff get tedious and pedantic. When you start putting your idea about what things should be, you read the script and you act as truthfully what the character is. I happen to like my character, a philosophy guy, and I like the way he said and I like the way he treats people, and that was fine for me. That's what I tried to do, and that's it.
And then Peter gets to order people around, right?
Well, Peter's the star of the damn movie, so
I'm not the star. It's I like to play human beings, and human beings have many sides. Sometimes they're to the right, and sometimes they're to the left, and sometimes they don't know if they're right or left. And this particular show, I think, examines people that are fed up, and so they go to far ends to solve their problems, and in the process, they're locked up in an area for a while, and they have to deal with each other. And the heart and soul of every character starts to come out, and there's a good and bad side of everybody there. There's somebody for everyone to root for in this picture, and hopefully it'll be me most of the time. But there were the kids that were in this. There's an actress by the name of Ava Abramian who we all fell in love with. Stuart, she worked with Stewie a lot in this picture, and everybody fell in love with her because she can't have a bad side. I don't think. This girl, we're under the worst conditions. It was freezing cold all day in a broken down house that was literally falling apart everywhere. You had to watch where you stepped. You might go through the floor. And so we had to have a fire in the fireplace blazing where everyone hung out. So all the actors hung out around the fire, and it was to pull them away to get in the next scene. Whoever, give me Stewie and give me Larry, and they go, do I have to go now? And you go like this, and then you run up to the set and do the thing. I hated going up and down the stairs. I'm sure Stewie did too, because old people don't go up and down stairs well.
I don't do stairs.
We had to look like we're, when I'm going,
Jason plays tennis 12 times a week. Don't give me that stuff.
Still, I've been doing it for 77 years. I mean, it's hard getting up those steps. It's hard. I don't jump over the net anymore.
Well, but Petey's right. The interesting thing, besides the politics, about the fascist element of it, and they call them the patriots and the freedom fighters, and we're one or the other. I won't give it away. But to me, one of the interesting dynamics is being as a group, as a bunch of characters in the same place, having to be in the same place, and the information that comes out of that tension, and there was a lot of tension. There's a lot of real dramatic stuff. I mean, including physical stuff and emotional stuff, and that to me is one of the souls of the movie and the production, about how the characters react under very difficult conditions, and as much as the politics, that to me is the source of the movie.
And by the way, the location, it was not to badmouth the location. Mary Radford, who is our godmother, she found this place, and it's never been seen in a movie. It's a spectacular place, and I don't know how she found it out in Simi Valley, way out somewhere, owned by an old prop man or something. And it had everything in it that we needed and more. And Mary Radford helped. We even shot in her house. That's what kind of movie this was. She allowed us to come in for a couple of days and take over her house. And you don't want anybody in your house shooting movies. You just don't, and she did. But she is a love of all of ours, and I don't know what kind of credit she got in this, but I would say godmother of us all, because she is a fabulous person. I just wanted to give her a shout out.
Speaking of shout outs, I just got to mention, because I got him here, in the movie is Ursula Brooks, Darwin Jordan, Makara Gamble, we know about him. His name Jedediah Dyer. Is that it? Jed Dyer?
Well, Jedediah, we had an actor who was supposed to show up and play this role, and he never showed. And so we panicked.
And Jed was on the crew.
So this actor didn't show up, and Jedediah was working. He's worked on several of Jeremy's movies as everything, a grip, a gopher, he just did whatever Jeremy needed done on the picture. And, he carried lights, he carried cable, he set up lunch, he did whatever was needed on the movie. He was one of Jeremy's pals. And so he asked him, he said, "Can you play this role?" And he went, okay, and he came in and gave a stellar performance. I thought one of the best performances in the show. And this it was a first-time acting job for him, and he loved it so much. I think he's an actor now.
All right, man, I got to finish the cast. Keith Stevenson, P.J. Oakland, Wendy Worthington, Will Bradley. Those are our chief guys, and Ava that Peter mentioned. I just want to make sure that they get in here.
Okay. So 2 final questions to finish things up. I always ask this to every set of people that we have because it has nothing to do with anything for the most part. I like to think that we're all united at least in one thing, and that is the love to eat things. So I ask every person, do you love pizza? And if you do, what is your favorite kind of pizza? Are you a Chicago slice, a New York slice? Do you like the California style? What kind of pizza do you love?
This is what they taught you in journalism school?
Absolutely not.
Petey, you want to start?
Yeah, Christopher Street, Johnny's Pizza with sausage.
Love it.
I have recently become addicted to, there's a place right near I live called B Street. They have an eggplant smoked cheese marinara pizza, which I love. However, my wife's family and my wife have been in the restaurant business, used to be in the restaurant business for 90 years. So Stango's Pizza in Long Island was always my favorite, not to mention every other food. But now, since Stango's is not there anymore, Beach Street eggplant pizza. And you can have it delivered to my house.
Excellent.
On the West Coast, I like the Lido.
Where's the Lido?
Over in the valley, off of Sepulveda and where do we play at Woodley? What's the name of that street? The next one past Woodley, whatever that one is.
And eyes? I don't know.
Victory and Sepulveda. There's a little shopping center there, and it's the Lido.
And Peter and I will be there next week from 3 to 7 signing on.
Signing pizzas.
That would be fantastic. And in pepperoni slices.
What's the second question?
So the second question is, are either of you comic fans? And if you are, is there a comic character that you would absolutely love to play?
Wow. Well, when I was starting out with not necessarily the news, we used to go to comedy stores a lot just because we ran into comics. There was a lot of Second City people, not the news. And my wife and I just decided to go see comics. Is that what you're asking about, stand-up comics or comic characters?
Well, I love stand-up comics, but I was actually going with comic book or comic strip characters.
Whoa.
I should have clarified. There we go.
Hallucinating is good.
Well, I grew up with Superman, so I'll pick Superman.
I would one of my early days. There was a comic newspaper comic character by the name of Beetle Bailey.
Right.
And I always loved Beetle Bailey. So, and I've never seen him done into a movie. I've never seen any kind of thing about him. And I'm probably too old to play him, but I would love to be a part of the Beetle Bailey, maybe his general or something. And he was one of my favorite cartoon characters, Beetle Bailey. And he's never been done. So let's do him.
That would be pretty fun. I think Jerry Lewis did a similar character back in the day from an adaptation. But for Mr. Jason, the style of your hair that you had in a lot of the films and your facial structure, I always thought would have been just a fantastic fit for the character Tombstone. It's a villain for Spider-Man. He's kind of gives off a Prohibition era gangster vibe with just kind of a scarier side to it. That would have been I think you could have definitely pulled that off. And I always saw Stuart. I would love to have seen and still would love to see Stuart play the Mad Hatter for Batman as a villain.
That's too much work. That's jumping around too much.
That's too
when
much.
I was younger, I always wanted to do Cyrano de Bergerac. Again, that ship has sailed.
I played Montfleury.
That's right, you did.
Thrice happy he who hides from pomp and power in sylvan shade and solitary bower.
Now, please don't judge Shakespeare on this clip, okay?
That's not Shakespeare.
Oh, Rostand, Edmund Rostand.
You call that Shakespeare?
Oh,
Peter Jason, my friend.
Oh,
I
God.
cannot thank the both of you
Well,
enough.
you can send us a big check or just send it to Stewie and he'll take me to lunch.
But I appreciate you taking your time to talk to us and to share your love of the craft and your experience. And I hope you both continue to keep getting these awesome roles so I can keep seeing you in more stuff to come.
Thanks, bro.
Mouth,
Your mouth.
Selznick's ears.
All right. Thank you.
Signing
Thank
off.
you, Ken. Pleasure.
Deep in the forest. I'll see you
Oh.
deep in the forest. You don't meet any friends when you're deep in the forest.
That was my line.
Go ahead, say it. Let me see if it's any better than
You
that.
don't meet any friends deep in the forest.
Oh, God, that was way better.
Now, if you enjoyed that conversation with these fine actors, you can see them in their new film, Deep in the Forest. When is that coming out, Richard?
I do believe it is May 31st.
Indeed. And it will be on demand, all video platforms. You can see them in their new film. It looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. Take the opportunity to see two masters at work, along with a really fine additional cast and just a fun film.
May 31st, Deep in the Forest.